The first panelist or speaker is Dr. Itoha Ebun-Olua Abaton. She's a food safety scientist, researcher, and an early career scholar with research supporting African MSMEs to provide safe and nutritious food program at Michigan State University. She holds a PhD in food science and technology from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and has extensive experience in food safety research, food microbiology, and antimicrobial resistance, AMR, in food systems. Her research focuses on foodborne pathogens, antimicrobial resistance, fresh produce safety, hygiene practices in informal food markets, and One Health approaches to improving food safety in Africa. She has led and contributed to several multidisciplinary and internationally funded research projects aimed at strengthening food safety systems and improving access to safe and nutritious foods across the continent. Dr. Abaton has authored and co-authored scientific publications in reputable peer-reviewed journals and has presented her work at national and international conferences. Her research has particularly explored the microbial quality and safety of fresh vegetables, the prevalence of antimicrobial resistant bacteria in food value chains, and the knowledge, attitudes, and practices of food handlers and traders in Nigeria. She's actively involved in collaborative research and capacity building initiatives and is a member of several professional organizations, including the Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology, Applied Microbiology International, African Continental Association of Food Protection, Institute of Food Technologists, and Global Harmonization Initiative. Driven by a passion for translating research into practical solutions, Dr. Abato is committed to advancing food safety, reducing foodborne disease risks, and supporting sustainable food systems that promote public health and economic development in Nigeria. We're excited to have Dr. Abato be one of the two panelists presenting today.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, wherever you are joining from. I am Itoha Abaton from the Department of Food Science and Technology, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State. I am also an early career scholar with the RSM2SNF Project. So this afternoon, I'll be speaking on weak links in food safety systems, informal markets, and supply chains under pressure. So I'll walk us through this outline from the continental crisis, a silent burden, down to conclusion, a call to coordinated action. So it is important to understand the scale of the problem. Food safety, Africa faces a major but often overlooked food safety crisis. Globally, about 600 million people suffer from foodborne illnesses each year, resulting to approximately 420,000 deaths. While this is a global challenge, Africa bears the highest burden of foodborne diseases among all regions. Now, a key concern is that food safety effects have historically focused more on export standards than on the safety of food consumed locally. And as a result of this, many consumers remain exposed to risk associated with poor hygiene, contamination, inadequate infrastructure, weak food safety system. So what are the drivers of regional food safety challenges? We have the rapid urbanization, where we have a population that is outgrowing and limited infrastructures such as cold chain. And also we also have production shifts. Now we have movements of production from small scale tradition down to regulated mass production. We also have the extended supply chain, where food produce are traveled long distance from the market, from the farm to the market, which can also increase contamination. And why this is a big challenge is because Nigerian population is surging towards 250 million, yet food safety infrastructure has not kept pace. Urban food markets source food from distant regions with minimal temperature control or hygiene oversight, which could also multiply contamination risks at the food supply chain. So, looking at the weak links, I would like to use the informal Nigerian markets as a case study. Over 80,000 of Nigerians purchase food from informal markets. These markets are vibrant, they're essentials, and they are largely unregulated. They also lack basic sanitation, cold storage, food safety trainings among vendors, and this can create fertile ground for microbial hazard. So the advantages of these informal markets are they are the primary food source for millions of consumers across Nigeria. They are also affordable, geographically accessible, and culturally embedded. These markets are the backbone of everyday food security. A disadvantage is that despite the fact that these markets are the main source of food or are the primary food source and they are affordable, they also operate entirely outside formal health regulations and food safety oversight. So a challenge of this informal market is microbial hazard. Research in some selected informal markets in Nigeria reveals a widespread presence of pathogens in some selected vegetables. And then one of our studies which helped to determine the overall prevalence of E. coli across senatorial districts in Ogun State, we were able to detect E. coli in some vegetable samples such as tomatoes, carrots, and cucumber. And the presence of these bacterial pathogens in these vegetables sold by these market traders may be due to transmission from irrigation water, manure, soil, wash water, or even the hands of the traders or customers. E. coli is an important bacterial indicator for water, and it is essential to know that when you wash vegetables with water that is already contaminated with E. coli, it can as well contaminate the vegetables. Another challenge is antimicrobial resistance. Now, pathogens isolated from Nigerian informal markets display alarming antibiotic resistance pattern, which can threaten the effectiveness of standard treatments for foodborne illnesses. So, in addition to E. coli that was isolated from the vegetables, we also isolated Bacillus species and Salmonella species. And the study showed a high level of antibiotic resistance, which were found in these vegetable samples. And this is of great concern because it shows that vegetables may play a role in the spread of antibiotic resistant bacteria. So another challenge in informal markets is poor infrastructure. Nigeria's informal markets are the lifeblood of nation's economy, but yet they are limited. They are limited because we have access infrastructure such as clean water and toilet. And this is a challenge because it can increase the risk of food contamination by promoting unhygienic practices among the traders in the market. So the project RSM2SNF was able to study across some of the wholesale markets across 6 states in Nigeria. And here we discovered that we have less than 50% of the majority of the wholesale markets having a functional toilet. As you can see, we have that in Cross River, Kaduna, Ebonyi, and Plateau states. Less than 50% of these markets, wholesale markets in these states, have a functional toilet. And then when we looked at the access to pipe-borne water, which we call potable water, we also had less than 50%, with some of the states having none at all, like the Cross River, Borno, and Kebbi. And then we looked at these states that treat their water. it was discovered that we had 20 to less than 20% of the wholesale market in these states that even treat their water. And we also discovered that majority of these markets rely on streams or jerry can as their source of water. So another issue is poor traders' hygiene. Now, where this market, all informal markets is a place where millions earn their livelihood. It's a silent environmental crisis which is unfolding, threatening public health, food safety, and also the future of commerce. Half of the vegetable traders reuse water, risking E. coli contamination across produce. Now, one of our papers where we looked at the adoption rate of good hygiene and vegetable handling practices among traders in Ogun State. Here we discovered that about 52%, which is half of the percentage of traders, change their wash water after washing their vegetables at an interval of 4 hours. That means 50% or even less than 50% reuse their water, do not change their water, they reuse their water. And when we look at traders who are into the sales of cucumber and traders into the sales of carrots, this quite correlates with the overall score. We have less than 50% of these traders that change their wash water at an interval of 4 hours. And then we looked at traders who make use of plastic crates to move or store their produce. We discovered that less than 50% of the traders make use of plastic crates to store and move their produce. Now, this could also result to microbial contamination. And I also want us to know that microbial contamination creates a direct pathway to foodborne illness, and it leaves no visible signs. Also, we were able to correlate some of these good handling practices with the microbial contamination in the vegetable samples from a study in Ogun State. If we look at the traders that change their water within 4 hours of first use, we discovered that this was a lower a lower rate of contamination by E. coli was observed in traders that were able to change their wash water at an interval of 4 hours. Then also, for traders who used plastic crates to store or move their produce, we had lower contamination by bacillus in their produce. So we also replicated some of these studies in Kaduna and Oyo State as well. Here we looked at the adoption of good hygiene and handling practices among tomato retailers in Kaduna and Oyo State. And overall, we discovered that the adoption rate of these hygiene practices were relatively low, with traders reporting an average of 1.7 of the recommended practices. Then similarly, among those that washed their tomatoes, which is conditional, we had just about 44% of them that were reported to change their wash water appropriately, with the adoption rate which was higher in Kaduna State. While those who do not wash their produce at all were about 22% overall. Then overall, we had about 22% of traders who washed their hands after using the toilets. We had more of this in Oyo State than in Kaduna State. And about 20%, 30% overall of traders who sold their produce on a raised platform or tables. That means that we had about 70%, which were split among Kaduna and Oyo State, of traders who sold their produce on the floor. So, looking at the human and economic impacts. One, of course, there will be recurring incidents. Hospitalization from contaminated foods and vegetables are routine, yet these are rarely documented systematically. Economic losses. As a result of this, food spoilage, export rejections, and healthcare costs drains billions of naira annually from the economy. And then the resource constraints. Most informal traders lack capital to upgrade equipment, storage, or hygiene practices, and they are trapped in unsafe cycles. So, conclusion, which is a call to coordinated action. Food safety remains a major public health and economic challenge across Africa, particularly within informal markets and supply chain. Secondly, poor hygiene, inadequate infrastructure, antimicrobial resistance, and weak regulatory coordinations increases food safety risk. Strengthening food safety requires investment in infrastructure and training traders as well, traders education, surveillance, and effective governance. So here the bottom line is food safety is not a luxury. It is fundamental to public health, economic growth, and national development. Hence, achieving safe food everywhere requires actions at every step of the food value chain. So I'd just like to share briefly my journey as an early career scholar in the RSM project and how it has shaped me as a young Nigerian food scientist. One, it has strengthened my understanding of food safety challenges in informal markets and food supply chain across Africa. Two, it has provided numerous opportunities to collaborate with multidisciplinary researchers, policymakers, and food system stakeholders. Three, it has improved my capacity in scientific writing, data analysis, and communicating research, both to people in the academic and non-academic audience. Four, it has expanded my professional network through mentorship, training, workshops, conferences, and collaborations, both internally and also externally. And lastly, it has increased my confidence to contribute to policy decisions and interventions, which is aimed at strengthening food safety systems in Nigeria and Africa. Thank you very much for listening.